Jalen Jacoby, what is it that we do?
We give the people what they want.
Jalen, we have an update on Ben Simmons. We have an update on the status of Cam Newton and the Patriots, but we start the show with last night's game between the Saints and the Jaguars. Jalen Rose, we've been saying that Jameis Winston should be the starting quarterback for the Saints, and he proved it last night. Jalen, is there any question anymore about who the starting quarterback for the Saints is?
No question to me, and I'm just happy that he's going to get a chance at redemption. He put up some big yards his first few years, big numbers at touchdown passes, obviously broke records throwing interceptions. He, like Cam Newton, Jacoby, got humbled. They ended up playing on one-year deals as backups. And now, to your point, he's in a quarterback battle with Taysom Hill, and if you look at the history of both of these guys' careers, one of them went #1 overall as a quarterback and showed me that he can make all of the throws. The other guy was a Swiss Army knife that they kind of developed into a quarterback. So the way he played last night, hopefully that's a precursor for what we're going to see for him this season.
There is no longer a question in my mind who the Saints starting quarterback is. And don't forget this, Jameis Winston, 27 years old. He is still a young man with a lot of football to play. Sean Payton, the head coach of the Saints, was still non-committal before the game. Here's what he said before the contest last night.
So what's your timetable look like? By when do you want to decide?
I don't have one right now. Before we play the first game.
So he still won't name the starter, but Jalen, there's no question in my mind who is going to be the starter. Is there any chance that Taysom Hill becomes the starter for the Saints?
No, but there will be times, Jacoby, and rightfully so, that they're on the field together making plays, explosive plays. You got Alvin Kamara, one of my favorite backs in the league, the glides like Gale Sayers. The key, however, is going to be Michael Thomas. Like a couple of years ago when he broke the record for catches and how he performed to being injured last year, being in and out of the lineup last year, not catching a touchdown last year. If they could get him back healthy, now that Jameis gonna be throwing the deep ball, then they say that was the longest deep ball that somebody as a Saints quarterback has thrown in years. You know what I'm saying? So Michael Thomas gonna be happy to get back and unlock that part of his game that he wasn't able to necessarily take advantage of later in Drew Brees' career.
Absolutely. When you look at Michael Thomas's production just 2 years ago, 16 games, 149 receptions, over 100 yards per game. And last year, when he was on the field, he was not as effective. Perhaps Jameis Winston can unlock Michael Thomas when he comes back. You mentioned that Winston was the #1 pick. The Saints were playing the current #1 pick, Trevor Lawrence, last night with the Jaguars, and Lawrence did not impress. It wasn't all his fault. He was under a lot of pressure. Do you think they are putting Lawrence at danger by starting him?
Danger! Danger! Get on the floor. Absolutely. You got to put Gardner Minshew in there, dog. Let him take that punishment. Him and the handlebar mustache. Let them deal with that. You got to protect this prized #1 overall pick. Now, we've seen this in the history of football, various teams handling it different. I remember when Troy Aikman or Peyton Manning took their punishment earlier in their careers. Or more recent, Joe Burrow, who was playing and throwing like 40 times a game and ended up getting injured. Or Kyler Murray, who started also as a rookie. So there are certain guys that have done it. There are other guys who have not done it. For me, the infrastructure, a lack of run game, if Etienne is going to be out, he left the game with a foot injury, right? And so now they thought he was going to be not only obviously a top flight pick, but use him like a receiver. So without one of his weapons and without an offensive line, they setting the #1 pick up to get killed, man. Don't start him week 1.
It reminds me of Burrow. It reminds me a lot of Burrow. We were watching Burrow last year, just concerned every time he took the field. It does feel like perhaps protecting Lawrence is more important, and maybe the best protection for him is to not be on the field, because this Jaguars team does not look good. And Jalen, I'm not going to overreact to preseason results. Oh wait, I'm totally going to overreact to preseason results. Urban Meyer just looks a little over his head. Like, you're watching the game, and he's just frustrated. They can't move the ball. There's a part of him that's like, man, I was making a lot of money coaching college. Perhaps that's where I should have stayed. We've seen it time and time again. College coaches take the level up to the NBA or the NFL. It just does not translate. Hopefully for Jaguars fans, that will not be the case here. But in the preseason, it does not look good for the Jaguars. Jalen, it's time for us to turn our attention to a story that's been simmering under the surface all summer long. Ever since the 76ers lost in the playoffs, Ben Simmons has been the person. He's been the person, the lightning rod for criticism that everyone is pointing to as the problem for the 76ers. He reportedly does not have contact with the team this offseason. Is there a chance, do you believe, that Ben Simmons will not report to camp? Could he hold out, or could this be like a James Harden situation? What do you think the future is with Simmons and the Sixers?
I think ultimately he ends up at camp. It's not in either side's best interest for him not to be at camp. It's definitely not in his best interest to do what James Harden did, and that's show up and be out of shape, because he's not a former MVP like James Harden is. So with that being said, I don't believe this deal happens this offseason, Jacoby. Now, the way you and I believe in Ben Simmons, we can't ignore the bizarre fourth quarter performances in the playoffs this year. And so he's going to have to build that value back up. If I'm on the phone with you and you talk about give me a player and give me like 2 or 3 first-round picks, not after that series. Like, we saw the Paul George deal, the Drew Holiday deal. Like, there have been deals where multiple picks got exchanged, but not when they passing up layups in front of Trae Young at the hoop. So he's going to have to build his value back up. They're not going to want to move him for less. So don't be surprised if this goes into training camp, if it goes into the season before he's actually moved.
Well, we will see what happens. I do believe he does get moved, but he might start the season on the 76ers. And every single August, I see the same thing, Jalen Rose. I see Ben Simmons on Instagram making three-pointers. Every single August, he is on the gram making three-pointers. I wouldn't mind if he actually did that during the season, because obviously unlocking a jump shot and his confidence internally and externally on the perimeter is important for him moving forward. Important for the Patriots moving forward is that they have Cam Newton available to them. He is not available now. There's been some misunderstanding about where and how he could get tested, so he is now out until Thursday, where they have a joint practice. Hopefully he'll be available then. Cole Beasley of the Bills is also unavailable. Beasley has been very vocal about not getting vaccinated. Jalen, do you think that this sort of unvaccinated part of the NFL will continue to rear its head as we head into the regular season?
This isn't political. This is not radical. Get vaccinated. Even if you don't want to do it for you, do it for your teammates in your organization. Because there's going to be a player at this rate that's going to cost his team football games and game checks. And you know what's going to happen when that takes place? Those guys that you thought were your teammates, your homies, the people you thought had love for you, they're going to start looking at you way different when you start messing with their money. That's what I have to say about when I hear this story, David Jacoby. Look at this protocol. It is obvious that the NFL lets you know if they're not able to reschedule the game, people are going to lose game checks. There are going to be some unhappy NFL players this season.
Yep, there's been a handful of Cowboys staff and players that have also tested positive, turning them into a virtual practice team. This is going to again affect this year in a way that it doesn't have to, because as you mentioned, vaccines are available, and I think that everyone should be vaccinated. The science backs that up. I got COVID. I feel that my symptoms were lessened because of my vaccination status, and I wish that everyone stays healthy. Jalen Rose, we have some very important news that matters. Jalen, my timeline has been completely taken over by people walking over milk crates. I cannot look at my phone. I cannot look at my phone without people falling off of milk crates. Jalen Rose, what do you think of the milk crate craze taking over the world?
You know, the one thing I am not trying to do is fall. So I'm against anything that may make me tumble like that and fall on my hip, fall on my head, fall uncomfortably on my neck and my back. I'm not gonna be able to do it. It just showed me how times have changed. I grew up hooping on milk crates. You know what I'm saying? Now people walking on them for other people's pleasure on the internet. But I've seen some really good ones. Shout out to the people that have been able to complete it. But those falls is ugly.
It's hard. I don't know what
That's
would
nice
make
twinkle
you want
toes.
to do this.
Those is nice twinkle toes right there by her. Great twinkle toes. Give her
She
her
went around
money.
collecting her money.
Give
Look
me
at her
my
collecting
money.
I love it. I love it so much. I will not be climbing on any milk crates. You will never ever see me do it. I've seen enough people break their backs, break their necks, break themselves climbing over milk crates. And she kind of jumped off it. I don't know if that counts. Does that count, Jay?
That definitely counts. That definitely count. Because you know somebody can fall, that'll get ugly. That ground is hard. And them crates hurt too. That's a double pain.
Jalen Rose, some power rankings of NBA teams have been released. And my Los Angeles Lakers are not where they should be in the power rankings. This is disrespect and more fuel for LeBron James fire.
It's me against the world.
It's time. Time to keep going towards the biggest season ever.
Let's go!
Time.
Lakers should not be ahead of the Bucks on this power rankings, Mr. Rose.
So initially when you said third, I wasn't necessarily mad at it. And then I thought about why, and it totally makes sense. I want to remind you something.
Okay.
There's a valedictorian walking the face of the earth representing the king of the court in the NBA. You know what his name is? Giannis the Greek Freak Antetokounmpo. You saw what he just did in the finals?
Yes, I
Did
did.
you see what he just did in the finals?
Yes, I did.
You saw
Yes, I
Chris
did.
Middleton make a name for himself as a closer? You see Drew Holiday getting steals and locking down on D? You know they play in the Eastern Conference also, right? Which means 50 of their games are gonna be against Eastern Conference foes. So therefore, they're number 2 because they're gonna have a better regular season record than today, your Los Angeles Lakers. Now, for the Nets, they right where they should be. The Bucks are as well. And don't be so upset about the Lakers not being 1 or 2. You just want them healthy at their Western Conference 3 seed or so when the playoffs start.
If you consider that all of the players are available and healthy, the Lakers have a better roster than the Bucks. And you mentioned the Nets at number 1. You remember, I'm old enough to remember, the Nets and the Bucks went to overtime in Game 7, and Kyrie wasn't even on the floor. The Lakers were one of the best teams in the Western Conference last year, regardless of record. They dealt with some injuries, and they added Russell Westbrook. They added a lot of other interesting pieces, too, like Malik Monk and Dwight Howard. They are going to dominate in the Western Conference, and they're also going to rest a lot. You know that LeBron James brought in Westbrook, so he said, you know what, I'll play about 70 games. I'll play about 70 games this year, and I'll give 12 just to Russ so he can score 30 and get the 15 assists and 15 rebounds. We know that's going to happen. Jalen Rose, would you, in your personal power rankings, put the Bucks ahead of the Lakers?
Yes, for the reasons I just told you. They play in the East. They are a younger group, which means they're going to value the regular season more. Their best player, Giannis, is extremely durable and dominant. He's only going to get better. You saw him making free throws, okay? That's just going to add to his arsenal. And so, yes, the power rankings got it right on that one. And you know what else I can't wait to see? A full season of the Nets. We only saw them less than 20 games last year. And you mentioned KD, the offseason salutatorian, the way he played in the playoffs, and then the way he played in the Olympics. But a healthy Kyrie and obviously James Harden starting the season in shape, that's going to be a marvel to watch.
Absolutely. It does feel like we are on a collision course like we were with the Cavs and the Warriors years between the Nets and the Lakers, and what a finals that would be. But there's a lot of basketball to play before we get there. Jalen, I called them my Lakers, even though I'm not really a Laker fan. But I am a die-easy Bills fan, and there is some Bills news. Roger Goodell said that he is focused on keeping the Bills in Buffalo, one of the smaller cities to have an NFL team. And he said that it's been going on for decades. They need a new stadium so they can stay there for decades going forward. Jalen Rose, will they get this done and keep the Bills in Buffalo?
90 East to 94. Shout to the Detroit Buffalo connection. My guy, Bo Jack. Let me just tell you something, dog. How would you feel if your die-easy Buffalo Bills left? Those fans that's been jumping on tables. What do you think Conway and Benny and Westside Gunner feel about this? I don't have nothing else to say. What do you think?
There is absolutely no chance that the Bills leave Buffalo. I have been to Buffalo. It is not a large city. What they have is the Bills and chicken wings, and that's pretty much it. So you can't take the Bills and you can't take the wings. Big shout to Buffalo, shout to Griselda, and shout to Roger Goodell being focused on keeping the Bills in Buffalo. Jalen Rose, we're going to turn our attention to the Bronx. The Yankees have now won 10 straight games. They are 27-9 since the All-Star break. Jalen, is this team that started slow finally coming together and looking to dominate the American League?
They represent the Bronx, but they are the New Yorkers. You know, life in sports, to me, I can't lie, is better when the Yankees are playing good. Because they're the villain. 27 pennants. They got the astronomical salaries of each of the players, like the star power that they perform with. And so it's great to see them win 10 straight, because earlier in the year, I remember coming on this program after they got swept by the Tigers. So they really turned it around.
They really have. And as much as I don't like the Yankees because I grew up in Massachusetts, it is better when the Yankees are good. It is better when the Lakers are good. It's better when the Cowboys are good. We want to see these big franchises be successful. That rising tide floats all of the boats, and it certainly looks like the Yankees are priming themselves for a playoff run in the American League. Just imagine like a Dodgers-Yankees World Series. That would be so much fun.
We have to go to that. We have to go to that for sure.
Lakers. You keep talking about all these events that you're going to, but you haven't gone to any of them. You haven't gone to any of them.
Let me tell you something. Dodger dogs. Okay, we going. We got to go to Yankee Stadium.
Jalen,
let's do it.
We have some news about hot dogs that might get you off those Dodger dogs. The University of Michigan did a study, and they've got some in the ESPN app. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose has some very concerning news. There is a study that has been done, and they have proven that if you eat one hot dog, it takes approximately 36 minutes off of your life. Will this discourage you from eating hot dogs moving forward?
Well, the golf outing yesterday, I just lost over an hour of my life then, huh? Wow.
You put double down.
I didn't know I was going to get that news today. You know what I'm saying? I had extra mustard, relish on it as well. I even asked them to toast the bread. How about that?
Well, I am concerned for my guy, one of the greatest athletes of all time, Joey Chestnut, because he's put down a lot of hot dogs, and those 36 minutes can start adding up when you're eating hot dogs at the clip that Joey Chestnut is. Jalen
And
Rose,
by the way, can I
mentioned-
just say this for everybody out there? A hot dog is not a sandwich. Please continue.
It's not a sandwich. It is not a sandwich. I agree with you on that. Jalen, you mentioned the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy golf outing yesterday. What an amazing day it was. The weather was beautiful. The golf was great. Everything was amazing. If you want to get involved, you can go to jrladetroit.com and donate. And well, look at this putt, Jay. Not that far, but still hard to do. You know?
Okay.
Gotta knock that in.
Okay.
You gotta
Give
knock
the
that
people what they want.
Big shout to my group, Jordan, Tyler, Artie, the one-man party. We had a great time out there. And
Shout out to Platinum Equity, Puma, Jeep. There were mayors, Hall of Famers, champions, educators, industry tastemakers. It was a labor of love. Thank you guys very much. The 11th annual. Forever
We'll
grateful
be back
for the
tomorrow
support.
at 2 p.m.